His story was never forgotten.
Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw today recognizing the decades-long effort to identify the boy we now know as Joseph Augustus Zarelli, but who for 65 years was known as the boy in the box and America's unknown child.
On February 25th, 1957, a young man pulled his car over on a quiet Philadelphia road to chase a rabbit. He ran into the brush and found a cardboard box. Inside that box was a little boy, naked, beaten, dead. He was 4 years old. He had no shoes, no clothes, no identification. No one in the entire city of Philadelphia, a city of 2 million people, had reported him missing. For the next 65 years, nobody knew his name. This is the most haunting, cold case in Philadelphia history. A murdered child who waited 6.5 decades for someone to give him back his identity. Stay with me, because the truth, when it finally came, was more disturbing than anyone expected. Northeast Philadelphia, 1957. A tight working-class neighborhood. Church on every block. Kids playing in the streets, the kind of place where bad things weren't supposed to happen. But here's the thing. The first person to find the boy didn't call the police. He had illegal animal traps in those woods. He saw the box, he saw the child inside, and he walked away. He said nothing for days, and it was only when a college student named Frederick Bononis chased a rabbit into the same brush on February 26th that police were finally called. What officers found when they arrived defied explanation. The boy was approximately 4 years old, completely naked, wrapped in a plaid flannel blanket, stuffed inside a cardboard box, the kind that once held a baby bassinet from J.C. Penney. He was malnourished, covered in bruises. His small body had multiple scars, including surgical scars on his ankle, his groin, and his chin. Someone had given this child medical treatment at some point. Someone had access to doctors, and then someone had beaten him to death. Cause of death, blunt force trauma. But here's what made this case immediately different from any murder investigators had seen before. His fingernails were freshly trimmed. His hair had been cut so recently that clumps of it were still stuck to his body. His eyes had been closed, his arms folded across his stomach. Whoever put him in that box had prepared him like they were trying to give him a burial. They beat this child to death, and then they groomed him for his grave. Philadelphia didn't just investigate this case. The entire city mobilized. The Philadelphia Inquirer printed 400,000 flyers with the boy's face on them. Every single gas bill mailed to every single household in Philadelphia had his image on it. His face ran on the front page of newspapers from coast to coast. 270 police academy recruits got on their hands and knees and combed every inch of those woods. Not one person called in a match. Not one missing persons report anywhere in the country fit his description. Nobody claimed him. Police found a man's blue cap near the scene, a child's scarf, a handkerchief with the letter G embroidered on it. Every single clue went nowhere. In July 1957, 5 months after he was found, with no family, no name, and no leads, Philadelphia buried him. Detectives served as his pallbearers. His headstone read, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy." Neighbors from the Fox Chase community started visiting his grave. They brought flowers. They brought toys. Children grew up hearing the story, then brought their own children to visit him. For decades, a former police officer kept watch over the grave and the case. This boy had no family, so Philadelphia became his family. For 36 years, one man made this case his life's mission. His name was Remington Bristow. He wasn't even a detective. He worked at the medical examiner's office. But from 1957 until his death in 1993, he spent his personal time and his own money hunting for the boy's identity. In 1960, Bristow tracked down a foster home about 1.5 miles from where the body was found, unlicensed, at times housing 25 children. At an estate sale for the home, Bristow found a bassinet, the exact same J.C. Penney model, whose box held the boy's body. He found plaid blankets on the clothesline cut in half, similar to the one the boy was wrapped in. He begged Philadelphia police to investigate the foster home. They refused. For decades, they refused. Remington Bristow died in 1993 without ever learning the boy's name. He left behind decades of notes, leads, and dead ends, and a case that was no closer to being solved. Then, in 2002, 45 years after the murder, a businesswoman from Cincinnati called investigators through her psychiatrist. She went by the name Martha, and what she said stopped everyone cold. She claimed her mother had purchased the boy illegally, a black market adoption from his biological parents in the Kensington neighborhood of Philadelphia. She said her mother was deeply abusive. She said the boy's name was Jonathan, that he was disabled and never spoke, that she watched her mother beat him for years. In February 1957, she said, the boy vomited baked beans in the bathtub. Her mother flew into a rage, slammed his body into the floor, and he never got back up. Her mother then cleaned him, cut his hair, trimmed his nails, wrapped him in a blanket, and drove to Fox Chase, a neighborhood she had no connection to, and left him in a bassinet box in the woods. The details matched, the timeline matched, the abuse matched the evidence on his body perfectly. Investigators spent 6 months trying to confirm her story. They could not. Her mother was dead. There was no physical evidence trail. The case remained open. In 1998, 41 years after his death, the boy was reburied at a proper cemetery. Ivy Hill Cemetery in Philadelphia donated a plot. The coffin, headstone, and funeral service were all donated. A new headstone was installed, America's Unknown Child. And at that same reburial, investigators took their first DNA sample from his remains. They uploaded it to CODIS, the National DNA Database. Nothing came back, no matches, complete silence. The DNA sample was also too degraded for deep analysis, and the technology to do anything more didn't exist yet. So he waited again. Then came 2018. California detectives used a brand new technique called forensic genetic genealogy to arrest the Golden State Killer, a serial murderer who had evaded capture for 40 years. The technique took crime scene DNA, ran it through consumer ancestry databases, found distant relatives, and built a family tree backward until they had a name. The arrest made international headlines, and police departments across America all asked the same question at the same time. Could this work for our cold cases? Philadelphia asked it immediately. In April of 2019, 62 years after the boy was found, detectives dug up his grave for the second time. They needed better DNA. They brought in forensic genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick and her organization Identifinders International, specialists who had helped crack unsolvable cases across the country. For 3 years, Fitzpatrick's team built a genetic profile from his remains and ran it through ancestry databases looking for distant relatives. They found partial matches on the maternal side. They built a family tree. They contacted a living cousin who had no idea any of this was coming. She submitted her DNA without hesitation. The match confirmed. Investigators got a court order for the boy's birth certificate, and on that document, filed 69 years earlier in the city of Philadelphia, was a name. Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born January 13th, 1953, in West Philadelphia. He was 4 years and 1 month old when he died on December 8th, 2022, 65 years after his body was found. Philadelphia Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw stood at a podium and spoke his name publicly for the first time. She said not just because a child was murdered, but because his entire identity and his rightful claim to own his existence was taken away from him. His biological parents were identified through DNA. His father, Augustus Gus Zarelli, a West Philadelphia stonemason. His mother, Mary Betsy Abel. They were never married. Both are long dead. Neither one ever reported him missing. Neither one ever came forward to claim the child on those 400,000 flyers. His parents were never charged. His killer has never been officially named. The case is still open. Philadelphia police are offering a $20,000 reward for information. But on January 13th, 2023, what would have been Joseph's 71st birthday, a new headstone was unveiled at his grave. For the first time, it had a name. Not America's unknown child. His name, Joseph Augustus Zarelli. For 65 years, a city kept flowers and toys on the grave of a child they didn't know. 3 generations of detectives refused to close his file. A forensic genealogist spent 3 years rebuilding a family from degraded DNA, and a cousin who never knew he existed gave a stranger the most important thing she could give him: his name back. His killer is still unknown, the case is still open, and somewhere in Philadelphia, someone knows something. If you have information about the murder of Joseph Augustus Zarelli, contact the Philadelphia Police Homicide Division. There is a $20,000 reward if this story hit you. Hit subscribe. We cover the cases that America's true crime industry forgets, the ones where the victim still doesn't have justice. New video drops every week.